Welcome to High Proof Ashes podcast with Jason, otherwise known as JB Smoke, and my partner here.
I am Doran. I do not have a cool nickname yet, but we're working on it. Working on it.
And we are members of, or we're board members of TENCAVS, Tennessee Cigars and Bourbon Society.
Absolutely.
And
local nonprofit.
Yes. And we have a pretty good little mission statement. You should see that on the screen. And we're here to have a cigar and a few bourbons.
Yeah, man.
So without further ado,
let's get it started.
Let's get it started.
So
our bourbons, why don't you introduce us to our bourbons?
All right. So in my glass, I already poured mine. So I've got the Dublin Dice. It is a 4-year-old straight bourbon. Tumbling Dice, excuse me. Tumbling Dice. 4-year-old straight bourbon, right? It is 100 proof, I believe.
It is 100 proof.
Okay. So fits right in with our theme, high proof. So we're going to start out with that, and then we've also got Pinhook, which is one of your favorites.
Yeah.
I'll let you tell us a little bit about that one.
So this is their 7-year vertical series single barrel. They bought a lot of bourbon from MGP probably.
Okay.
And
more of the MGP juice, which is a great brand. They make a lot of stuff.
And they are aging it themselves.
Okay.
And starting at year 4, they took some barrels, bottled them, and sold it as a 4-year bourbon.
Okay.
At 5 years, they took some more barrels, did the same thing.
Okay.
Did that at 6 and did that at 7 now. And every year they take a few barrels, single barrels, and they bottle those single barrels. And
okay.
So they sell them as the bourbon vertical series single barrel. And they also do a rye. I'm not collecting the ryes, but Aaron is.
Right.
So one of our friends, he's collecting the ryes, and they did the same thing. I think it's 2 years behind, if I remember right. So this one, though, a little higher proof, 111, and we really like this one.
Yeah, and we'll get into that bottle a little bit later in the episode.
We will.
Major difference between the two is price, right?
Yes.
One is very inexpensive.
Yes.
Neither are, I would say, expensive, but one is much more friendly as far as pricing goes than the other. So the Tumbling Dice we can get for about 35 bucks, which is one of our goals, right? Is to find bottles that are at least 100 proof, 4 years old, and between the price of 30 and 40 bucks.
Yeah.
So this one fits in perfectly, and you'll find that we are going to constantly try to bring you bottles like that.
and as you can see,
it's pretty good.
we like it.
We like it. So, it's pretty good.
Gonna have to get another one of those.
And then what are we doing as far as cigar today, man? Like, this is something I have never smoked, so you're going to have to tell me a little bit about it. I see it's a Monte Cristo, which is one of those historic brands.
It is, but this is the non-Cuban Monte Cristo brand. There's not very many Monte Cristos that I really like of the non-Cuban brand, but the Espada line, E-S-P-A-D-A, the Espada line, they've got it's a regular, so I don't know what it is exactly. And then this one is the Oscuro, which is a bit darker. And so I was pretty sure you hadn't had this one before.
I have not. So that's one of the things that you're trying to do, right?
That's right.
So like, I'm a traditional cigar guy. So what that means for me when I say traditional cigar guy is I smoke a lot of cigars that are from traditional manufacturers. And Monte Cristo is one of those. But normally I smoke from Fuente.
Yes.
Well, I smoke a lot of Fuente.
Love Fuente.
I love Fuentes, right? Drew Estate, like I really am a big fan of Drew Estate. Now they're not a traditional brand, but
they have traditional lines.
But they have traditional lines, right?
Yes.
So this is part of the cigar journey.
It is.
Being a little bit more versed in the field, introducing me to new cigars and seeing how I feel about them and seeing if it's something I can add to. I think this will be. I think it will be.
This one is kind of interesting. The band, it's got the extra band on there.
It's beautiful, man.
The band is beautiful. It has that perforation where you don't have to actually take off the full band. Okay. So you can see that it's got the little perforations there. So you can actually
might be able to see that if we,
so half the band. So he's got it, I've got it taken off the bottom half. And so you don't have to take off that whole band.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's actually good to keep on whatever bands are there as much as you can for as long as you can.
Okay.
Because it's a natural product. It's a handmade natural product, and they're not perfect. Right. And sometimes they crack, or they might swell a little bit, or whatever.
So I'm a fan of leaving my bands on as long as possible, right? Just so that we don't have any of those issues. Right. Reason being, as the cigar heats up, that glue will heat up a little bit, and it makes it a little bit easier to get those bands off.
Very true.
Right.
Very true.
So you want to get started? Go ahead.
Let's get started.
Cut and light.
Yes, definitely.
Right, let's do it. So Jason, how was the day today, man?
I had a really busy day today. I had a lot of little fires that I was dealing with going. It was one of those days where I couldn't concentrate on one thing for very long because I had people coming at me, and this is done, so now I need to do my part, and so the job that I do, I have a portfolio of projects, and so each project requires attention, and they're all at varying levels of where they are in their lifespan.
Okay.
And so some things take a lot more effort to do than other things, and so you have to do a lot of there's a lot of balancing and a lot of time management. So, but I do project work, so but I love it. I love doing project work. It's never the same thing every day.
Right.
I never when I work at home, but when I come to work, I never really know what I'm doing.
Right.
So I always have I always have a back burner that's full of stuff. And so, when I'm not dealing with fires, I'm dealing with that stuff.
So first impressions, lighting that foot, toasting it and lighting it, very flavorful right off the bat. Good cigar. Wasn't overpowering. A lot of good stuff there so far. Let's smoke this a little bit and see how it goes.
So the regular Espada, I'm actually having trouble finding. I don't know why, but the Oscuro line is relatively easy to find right now.
Okay.
The retail, I think, is somewhere around $12 at your store, at your local store.
Okay.
You can get them online as low as like $8. Is a pretty good deal. But this is one of my, when I want to have something a little richer,
okay,
a little more flavorful, I go to this.
All right. So this is my first time with this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna smoke a little bit and see how I feel about it. So far, first impressions are very good. Right. Like it is flavorful, tastes good on the palate. So far so good as far as burn goes. And again, we're still at the very foot of this thing, so we'll see how that develops. Doesn't have necessarily the smoke production I like, right? Like normally, good smoke production, like
that's true.
Light it up, take a full, draw. You can see that smoke production coming from the end and both ends actually. So we'll see, but it does taste very good.
I think you'll enjoy it.
And so you went with the tumbling dice as well for your first drink.
I did. I just think this is one of those hidden gems.
Right.
So I bought this pretty much, sight unseen, or however you want to say that. Like I didn't know what I was buying.
Right.
It just fit the criteria that we've been talking about for some time, and actually, it's a high rye, isn't it? Yeah, or they say heavy rye. And that would have scared me, some time
previously,
ago.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But recently
we've been getting introduced to more and more ryes.
Yeah, we really have, that aren't crazy spicy, and they don't taste like ryes, is what we like to say. And this is one of them that if I didn't tell you it was a rye,
you might not know.
Yeah. And I brought this in to OCL as one of our mystery bottles that we do sometimes, right? So I still had it in the paper bag. And, that's where we just everybody goes and tastes it and just tries to guess what it is, but we only have one person that's really good at that.
Yeah.
Right.
So most of us just pick out pieces of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
So
okay. So I think when you brought it in, I was like, yeah, this is at least 100 proof. I was like, all right. So with those different facts, we piece it together, and then we finally, try to figure out what it is. And like Jason said, there's only one person that normally can guess these, but even he had a little trouble with this one. He had two in his mind, and he called out one. And then when we told him what it was, he said, "Well, that was the other one." So I don't know if that was true or not, but I give him the benefit of the doubt because he's pretty good.
Yeah,
he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. But it's definitely, it's one of the more affordable ones. So, when I'm here at my home lounge, time to burn, just having a drink and the smoke,
something
it's something that I can go to and not feel so like, oh, this is pricey, that sort of thing.
So you'll see, I'm actually taking the glass and sitting it on top of my lip and kind of putting my nose in the cup a little bit, trying to get some of the different fragrances and aroma from what it is, right? So this one has a pretty sweet smell.
But no rye. Like
no spice, right?
No.
Like, so that's the beauty of
there's some of those ryes where you put your nose to it and, oh, yep, that's rye.
Right off the bat, right?
But not this one. This one was a surprise.
But at this price point, being 4 years old, 100 proof, it's a phenomenal bourbon, right?
Yeah.
Like it's one of those that I think a lot of people would be really pleased with. If you haven't had it before, I would encourage you to go out and try it, see what you think about it, and let us know, right? Shoot us a message or put something in the comments. Let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, and this is a proof and wood product.
Yeah.
And so they've got, I guess, their own brand, of things that are pricey, but not this. And then, I brought this in, and Corey, I think the following week, he brought in
a different one,
like a single barrel,
like
or
a single
something,
barrel of it,
and it tasted different. And so, but I remember pulling it out of the bag and showing him, and he just guffawed, I guess is the best way to say it, just because he's like, are you kidding me? Like, that was tumbling dice that I was drinking.
So tell all of the people watching us, right? So we've got this bottle, which is their everyday bottle. What would be the difference between a single barrel and this?
Well, I mean, that's a blend, right? So somebody, a master blender, typically will taste several different barrels, and they will blend and taste and blend and taste until they get to a consistent product that they can bottle, hundreds and thousands of bottles, and get a very consistent flavor, just like you would get with, with a Turkey 101 or a Maker's Mark or a Buff Trace. That's what they do. They've got hundreds or thousands of, however many it is, barrels, but those barrels are in these rick houses or warehouses or wherever they're at. And they might be rotating them or moving them around, whatever. But at the end of the day, they're all in different locations. And after they've been there for years, they taste different.
Right.
I mean, this right here is a prime example of what we're talking about.
Okay.
The regular 7-year, tastes some kind of way. And I actually haven't had the regular 7. I haven't been able to find another bottle. So I've got one, but it's in my collection because I'm collecting the regular vertical series. But I have tasted the 6-year regular bottle and single barrel, and they're totally different. It's crazy. Okay. Absolutely crazy how that is.
So for the people, a single barrel, does that mean truly there's one single barrel?
It just means that the bourbon that's in the bottle only came from one barrel.
There you go.
That's what that means.
Perfect.
And depending on the year and the size of the barrel that they used, they can get anywhere from 100 to 250 bottles, whatever.
There you go.
Right? It's a big variance, just depending on lots of factors. So this being a 7-year, I think they actually tell you they got 140 bottles out of the barrel. So it can mean a definite difference. And I'm not big on trying to find I've talked about this, trying to find all those hard to find, like, allocated bottles that you have to go to lotteries or go to secondary pricing to get to it, and all that kind of stuff. I'm really enjoying finding these store picks, the single barrels, and that sort of stuff where there's not that many bottles out there, and it's just been fun to try them, and the one over here, I was actually thinking about this earlier today. How many bottles have I bought not knowing what I was buying,
right,
that I liked or didn't like, and I'm probably 50-50 right now.
Well, the good thing is we are in a market where we have a local liquor store that actually caters to bourbon drinkers, right? So he spends a lot of time picking out single barrels. Shout out to Rupin at Red Hot.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate what you do for the community here. So he spends a lot of time picking out, specific bottles for his store.
That's right.
Store picks that are very good.
Right.
So
and most of them are they're single barrels.
Single barrels.
So and he's doing. I think he said this year he's doing what, something like 25 barrel picks this year.
Yeah, it's going to be huge.
I mean, that's for a store that size and in a town our size. That's unheard of.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I mean, you just, if you go to some random liquor store, they might do 4 a year. Even the biggest one in town probably only does what, maybe a dozen?
Probably.
Something like that.
They do a few higher end.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so really allocated stuff.
Yeah.
But that's ultimately everybody can find out about those bottles, right? When you start your bourbon journey, you'll find the big name brands, the Buffalo Trace, their whole line, right? So Buffalo Trace, E.H. Taylor, Weller, Pappy, it's a bunch I'm missing, Eagle Rare, so all of those things are well known. What we're looking for is those that are maybe not so well known,
right?
That we can bring to everybody, and at an affordable price that you can put in your collection and enjoy. Day to day, and
that's right,
and say it's a very good bottle.
Yeah, I mean, something that you can probably find in your local store.
Yep.
So
now we do have all of those allocated bottles we talked about, right? Mm-hmm. So of course you've got some Wellers, I've got some Wellers.
Yes.
The Buffalo Traces of the world, of course. All of those things are fun, but they're hard to find, right?
They are, and they're not cheap either.
No. Especially when you start getting into the liquor stores that are doing secondary prices, right?
I mean, but even some of the retail prices are up there. I mean, if we exclude Weller and Taylor, the other allocated stuff is up there.
So like your B-Tax.
Yeah. So
B-Tax, for those who are new to the journey, is Buffalo Trace Antique Collection.
Right.
So that's going to be your Eagle Rare 17, your Thomas Handy, what else? Sazerac,
Sazerac, Stag.
So just a lot of different things that would fall into that.
Right.
But ultimately, we like to find the good stuff that we can find for affordable prices.
That's really where we are, especially you and me. Like, it's great to have the special bottle, to have on occasion. But, as great as Buffalo Trace is, I don't want to drink it every day.
Right.
I'm not Crowder. I can't drink Buff Trace every day. Shout out to Crowder drinking Buff Trace every day, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not for me. But
you did get a special bottle recently.
I did. I got the Old Forester birthday bourbon, and I have not opened it. But I do plan to keep it.
Okay.
And open.
So have you finally made the decision? It's going to stay.
It's going to stay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to stay. I will probably never get that bottle ever again, and so I'd be selling it just for money. Mm-hmm. And that sounds great, but what would I buy?
Yeah.
I would buy the stuff that I would buy anyway.
Right.
And so that stuff's not really special. That bottle is.
So we're going to bring that to you on one of these podcasts.
Yes.
And I'm saying that now just to put him under the gun, and make sure that he shares that bottle with me. So I got my own bottle of special bottle, right? So I got a Weller CYPB, which is really hard to find as well.
So good,
so it's not the same as the birthday bourbon, but maybe we'll crack them on the same night. Because I think I'm gonna keep mine as well. So
that sounds great.
Maybe we crack them on the same night. I thought you were
gonna keep it. You were on the fence.
I was on the fence, man.
Really?
It's one of those like.
I mean, I know you can make some money
not
off
the
of
same
it.
amount, but it's just one of those bottles that's like, really what I wanted to try to do was like get the whole Weller, collection.
Weller collection, yeah.
But I like it so much, I just think I'm going to keep it and open it up and share it with everybody.
Well, this right here, the normal one, they're going to go to, I think, year 12, I think is where they're going to finish. And that one's probably not going to be cheap. Probably not going to be easy to find either. But I'm actually looking forward to the day that I can bring in, 4 through 12.
Right.
4 through 13, however far they're going. Bring that into the lounge or, something like that and just splay them out.
Right.
And we're gonna crack them all open that
one. Go down the line
and just go down the line.
We're gonna have to make sure we eat well.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a night.
Yeah.
I mean because you're talking like 8 or 9 pours.
Yeah.
So.
So for those that don't know, we do a whiskey Wednesday.
Yes.
It's more bourbon than whiskey.
Sure.
But every Wednesday we get together and we do what's a bottle share. So our group, which is about 7-8 people, each one of us probably shows up with somewhere between 2 and 5 bottles a piece, right? So each one of us brings 2 to 5 bottles. So any given night you might walk in and there be
30 to 40 bottles.
Or 40 bottles of bourbon on the table, mixed in with some tequilas, some rums, some different things, right? But we share those with everybody, and
that's right.
Every week you get to try something different, something new.
I've tried so many new things.
Dude, like I thought I knew a lot about bourbon until we started Whiskey Wednesday, and started doing them regularly. So now it's just, we've gotten to the point where certain things are like,
here we go, right?
Right. We won't even go near them, because we've got so many things that are phenomenal. Like,
right.
It's just hard to pick something out.
Well, it's just new, and so I think that's the beauty of it is we get to try so many things that maybe it's allocated and hard to find, or maybe we've just never seen it before, or like the Chattanooga whiskey Cabernet cask one was, it's a recent release. I really wanted to try it, but it's not cheap.
Right.
And I didn't want to buy the bottle without knowing if it was good.
Right.
And so somebody brought it in and I was able to taste it and decide if I wanted it or not, which I did. And it's great and I bought it. But
let's see, I felt the same way about the Good Times Neapolitan.
Yeah.
Right. So $100 bottle.
A lot of
a little more than $100.
It was one. Yeah, you're right. All the Good Times are like that. I think, it's just, they're like $100 bottles and it's one of them things where you just don't know.
Yeah.
You got to taste it.
So luckily for my birthday, Corey brought in a small, taster of it, got to taste it. And then immediately I was like, I got to have a bottle of this. And I've already, between Whiskey Wednesday and me at the house, I've already dented it pretty good.
Oh, you're drinking it at home?
Yeah, I drink it at home.
Oh.
I mean, like, what's the purpose of buying it if you're not going to enjoy it?
I mean, go for it.
Right.
I just, I don't typically dip into my top shelf too much at home.
Oh, man, like, no. I can't help myself.
Not, at least not when I'm by myself. But when somebody comes over, I can't help but, bust out the Starlight Cigar Blend.
Yeah. That's a phenomenal bottle, dude.
It's just, that's a special bottle. So, but this one right here, I'm telling you, a hidden gem. Genuinely a hidden gem.
So, the cigar is growing on me, right? The burn is pretty good. That's a good looking ash there, right? Smoke production is still not exactly where I want it, but it's a good, good enough. I used a guillotine cut on mine, which is a straight cut basically. You went guillotine as well?
I did.
Is there a reason why you prefer guillotine over other cuts?
I prefer a lighter draw versus a harder draw, and this gives you the most, air through the cigar, through the end of the cigar, versus like a punch or a V cut or something like that. That's pretty much it. I mean, I've smoked cigars that have just been, even though I cut it like this, the draw is impossible, and it's just it's not enjoyable when you're fighting the cigar the entire time. I mean, even this one, even though I've cut it like this, it's still not drawn exactly like I'd prefer it.
Right.
But some cigars require, you need to do a V cut or a punch. Typically, the cheaper stuff I'll punch.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of short filler in there, and if you do a straight cut, after a while the tobacco starts to come out the end.
Yep. I've found myself sometimes like pulling out, like a hard piece of leaf out of there, just because it's there. But I'm weird too. So like so torpedoes, like most people, I don't think use a V cut on a torpedo.
No, I think you were the first person I ever saw do that. I would have never thought to use a V cut.
So I don't like to waste a lot of the cigar.
I know when you told me that, I
laughed. It's kind of crazy.
It makes, I mean, it makes sense, but I just laughed at that's your reasoning.
Yeah.
And so that's just funny. So like V cuts, I like to do V cuts on a box where it's a box press or like a box end or whatever. Just because it's kind of hard to use the guillotine is a round cut, and you're trying to do a round cut on a square cigar,
right? And
sometimes it'll split it,
right?
So and sometimes I'll even do a punch on those, but I rarely do anything other than a straight cut.
That's my everyday. I cut almost everything with guillotine straight cut, just because, like you said, I like to draw from a guillotine or a straight cut, whichever you prefer to call it. So that's just the way I tend to go. So thoughts on the tumbling dice?
I love it. I mean, that's why it's almost gone.
Yeah, I mean,
it again, like it checks all the boxes.
It does.
I mean, that's what it. It's got a really good flavor. It's at least a 4-year. It's 100 proof, and again, you wouldn't know that it's a heavy rye mash bill. I mean, I think they even put the number on here of the rye. 36% rye, 60% corn. So I mean, it's still a bourbon.
And so to be a bourbon, it has to have 51% corn.
That's correct.
Right. So
has to be made in America.
Right.
And it has to be aged in new charred white oak barrels.
And so if you ask some of our friends, it has to be made in Kentucky.
I
am not a believer of that. But
so, those are the ones that spiritually, that's the one.
That's a good word for
it. Spiritually.
Yeah.
But legally, right? Because bourbon is, it's a legal term, I guess. I don't know what word to use, but, it's something that Congress actually voted on. So it's America's spirit.
Right.
It as far as I know, it's America's only spirit.
Right.
So all the other spirits that are out there can or must be made somewhere else. So like tequila is another one, right?
But tequila, you can only buy bourbon in the good old U.S. of A.
Well, you can buy it elsewhere,
but for it
to be called bourbon,
right? It has to be made.
Has to be made here. That's
here
right.
In the United States.
That's right. And I have gravitated. I don't know about you, but I've gravitated to bourbon because of the inherent sweetness.
Yes.
The whiskeys that are not bourbons tend to be not as sweet.
Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels is a good example, right? That's a Tennessee whiskey, which is another subset of the whiskey world,
right?
And I don't know all the requirements. I think there's something to do with coal filtering. I think, obviously made in Tennessee, but beyond that, I don't know if there's anything else. But yeah, Jack Daniels is a really good example of a whiskey that's not a bourbon that I don't particularly enjoy. There's a few of their rarer, allocated, more pricey bottles that are pretty
off the top
good.
Of my head, I can't think of a whiskey, because all bourbons are whiskey, right? But I can't think of a whiskey specifically that I enjoy enough to just go out and pick up. Do you have any in your collection?
I'm trying to think. So Chattanooga whiskey is not everything they make. That I think the Founders is bourbon.
Is it really?
I think so, but not everything they make is bourbon because it doesn't fall within the categories or whatever. But yeah, I don't think everything they make is bourbon.
Well, we know, of course, they recently did the gin.
Yes.
Which we like a lot.
Yes.
Right.
It's an experimental.
Yep.
I think you can only get it at the store in Chattanooga.
Yep. So if you want to try any of these things that we're talking about from Chattanooga, Chattanooga whiskey, got to come on down here and do it the right way, right? Like actually go to the distillery, which is right here. So they started out using MGP juice.
Yes.
And now, if I'm not mistaken, are they distilling everything in-house or most of it in-house?
I think it's most of it. They've been obviously distilling since day one, but I think they're still selling, stuff they bought from MGP.
Okay.
I don't think they're 100% themselves, but I'm not the one to ask. I'm not, I don't know that much about bourbon and all the different, distilleries and stuff out there.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Which is why we're doing our podcast, right? We're gonna go down this line and we're gonna learn with you guys. And
we're not here to, school you on all the little intricacies about every little bourbon and distillery and even every cigar for that matter. We're very much average guys, average bourbon drinkers, and maybe a little above because we do appreciate the finer.
We appreciate the finer,
bottles,
finer bottles, and finer cigars.
This is true. This is true. This is very true.
But so I finished up my tumbling dice.
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my glass here.
Yeah.
So I can get some pinhook.
Yeah. You want to rinse the glass. That's important. You don't want to get any lingering aromas and flavors from the previous pour.
Mm-hmm. And drink responsibly, folks. Like drink water. Make sure you're not drinking and driving, all that good stuff. I know we have a podcast where we enjoy bourbon and cigars, but we want to make sure we tell people to be safe when they're consuming. So we try to make sure you do the same.
I mean, you're supposed to consume to enjoy, not to get inebriated. That's that's a side effect, but that's not the point.
Agreed.
Like if we were just drinking to get drunk, we wouldn't be drinking.
I wouldn't drink in front of a camera. I mean, there are those days. There's sometimes you need to, get rid of the world's funk.
But not before you're going to drive.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And that's important.
Right,
you really need to know your limit. Pace yourself and drink plenty of water.
Yes.
We talked about Whiskey Wednesday. I mean, how many of these do you go through? 2 or 3?
Maybe more.
Maybe more?
Maybe more.
Right. I'm going through probably 2 or 3, on a Wednesday.
Well, so these are these are pretty big, right? So, I mean, we get the bottles of water from the lounge and, different things. So, I'm going to go ahead and go to the pinhook here.
Yes.
Get me about a 1 ounce pour.
Yeah. So, we don't go crazy with our pours. I'm going to go ahead and pour as well.
We're tasting.
We're enjoying.
Not going too crazy on it. So that color is just beautiful, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, looks really good.
Yeah. Another interesting thing is the color they're using for the wax is different every year.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I want to say the 6 is orange. The 5 was like a brown or a gold or something like that. And I can't remember what the 4 is. I'd have to go and look. But yeah, each year is a different color.
Okay. So I'm As you can see, I'm, putting the glass on my lip here, trying to get my nose into the glass and
And
get a little bit of the fragrance and the aroma.
the first time you tried this, though, you were surprised.
I was shocked. I was shocked.
Like I mean, I watched you take that sip, and you just jumped back, and you were just like, whoa.
Because it's so good. It's
That
so very
that
good.
does have a really nice aroma.
It does.
Just you can smell the char and the.
Is it crazy that I get a little banana?
No, not at all.
I get a little banana.
No, not at all. You ask Corey, you can get all the flavor gamuts out there possible with depending on which one you drink. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you what, man. This is one of my new favorites, and I hate that it is just because like
it's hard to get.
Well, I mean, it's a single barrel. I mean, this is it. Like once they sell out of the 140 bottles, that's
it's
it.
Done.
It's done.
It's done. And we put a dent in this one.
We have, yeah. I mean, it's half gone.
But I'm assuming you have a spare of this.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So we're closing in on 45 minutes. We're at about 35, I think. So what do we want to let the people know?
That this is amazing.
I do agree. Cheers, my friend. Cheers.
Yes, definitely. Cheers. I mean, this is something. And this wasn't crazy expensive. I mean, it was 75, I think.
Okay.
And I realized for some, 75 might be like, whoa. But in the world of bourbon, $75 is nothing.
It's a pretty good price.
So Rupin does a really good job with his price points, I think. And, we have a bottle that I'm sure we'll get to where Rupin had to restock twice.
I think it was more than twice. Are we talking about
Cigar Rack? Yeah. So, I mean, he got his original stock, and then he restocked twice.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So he stocked 3 times.
He stocked it 3 times.
He sold 18 cases of it in a matter of a couple of months.
Yeah.
And, it's incredible. So it'll be one of those ones that we put on the podcast that you probably can't get, not because it's allocated, but, it was a batch and got put out on the market, and once it's gone, it's gone.
So did that bottle go to other areas?
I'm sure it did.
Did it go outside of our geographical area?
Well, if I recall correctly, Buzzard's Roost wasn't a brand that was in Tennessee up until recently.
Right.
So I think the answer to your question is yes. Like I want to call it a nationwide brand, but some things don't go in every state.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was a batch. I have no idea how many barrels were involved and how many bottles are out there on the market, but it's one of those, another hidden gem.
Mm-hmm. So that smoke production, as we get into the second, third, looks like it ramped up a little bit. I can see, now that I took a drag, pull, whatever you like to call it, I can see that the smoke is still coming from both ends of the cigar. So it's getting a little bit better for me.
So as strong as it is, though, it's surprisingly smooth, right?
It's very smooth, right?
Yeah.
So we did start the day with a different cigar, right?
We did.
Which was really full body.
Right.
So this one, I still don't feel is as high or as full body as the last one.
No.
But it's a very good cigar.
It's hard to beat that one, man.
If I seen this in a humidor and they had them readily available, I'd probably purchase it. I think I'd buy it. So I think you did a good job of picking out one that I haven't had before that is enjoyable.
Awesome.
But you know my palate pretty well. Like our palates match up pretty good.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
So that's
pretty
a good
true.
thing. That's
pretty true. And further down the line, we're gonna try some cheaper stuff that I think will surprise you for the price point. It's not it's not going to be, it's not going to smoke like a $15 cigar because it's not a $15 cigar.
Right.
But I'm going to give you something that's a $6 cigar.
Okay.
And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Wow, again.
So
you got a few more years on me in this realm, so
yeah.
I look to you for certain things as far as cigars go, whereas we look to Corey for certain things as far as bourbon go.
Yeah, I can't even try to touch the bourbon stuff.
Yeah,
we just go to Corey. I mean, Corey's got like a couple hundred bottles or whatever.
It's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
It is very impressive. So he definitely jumped hard into the bourbon world.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I think that's the beauty and the fun of both of these worlds is they're very, very diverse, very expansive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go crazy with them. You really, really can. So, but we're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna try to smoke things that anybody can get, drink things that anybody can get.
Not to say we won't smoke some things that are.
We will definitely smoke some higher things.
Some higher things, and we're going to drink some bottles that are very allocated and very special, right? So, but ultimately, stay tuned. Follow the podcast. What's that stuff they say? Subscribe, right? We want them to subscribe.
Yeah, click the bell. Make
sure to hit the bell so that you know when we post.
Yes.
But we got a lot of great things in store.
We'll be traveling soon.
Yeah, we're gonna be traveling. We're gonna do some different things,
right? Do some podcasts in different places. Yes, definitely.
I think we're gonna get some different clips out of Whiskey Wednesday, right? Show the people what Whiskey Wednesday looks like.
Yes.
So if you're ever traveling,
show them how to do it, right?
Yeah.
Show them how to do it.
Show them how we do this.
That's right.
Man. Absolutely, absolutely. What else we got for the people today, man? We're at about 40 minutes. I
mean, I think this is about it.
That's about it.
We're just gonna, hang out.
Finish our cigars.
Yeah.
Have another glass of bourbon.
That's right.
All right. But
we'll see you next time.
Hanging with Doran
and Jason, JB Smoke, right here.
Yes, sir. And this is High Proof Ashes.
High Proof Ashes,
hope you'll come join us next time. We look to see you soon.
See you later.